The debate over wearing face masks is creating a sharp divide among some Americans.
White lives matter, black lives matter, Asian lives matter, Hispanic lives matter, blue lives matter. What is so controversial about saying all lives matter?
Some Americans protesting against wearing a mask in public, despite the universal health guidance that wearing a mask combined with social distancing does help slow the spread of the virus.
What is it about this phrase, Black Lives Matter, that views it to be viewed as a political ideology, seen as hate-filled?
Masks, they're not mandatory everywhere, of course, including some of the states where they're seeing that rapid increase in cases tonight. Some are now arguing those masks infringe on their rights.
There is nothing political about these three words.
The first 5 years of life, you absorb a lot about your parents' understanding of the world, both their stated positions and what they do, right? So maybe you grow up in a household where mom and dad are like, everybody's good, everybody should be valued, everybody should be loved. Oh, quick, cross the street, there's a person of color, right? And so there's all these little things we pick up on, the behaviors, the beliefs, the structures. And so you get off into the world, and you encounter somebody else with a different experience. And they say, hey, you might be wrong. My first response generally as a human being is to just say, my whole life has been a lie. Everything I believed was wrong. Which isn't what you're saying, but right, that's how it feels. And so you argue, right? You engage in this discourse, this conversation. And the funny thing is, it turns out that actually is a really poor way to change minds and to change hearts. That providing someone counterfactuals, evidence of them being incorrect, it turns out that doesn't really do much for them. It doesn't change our minds. It actually solidifies our belief structure.
Automatically, I'm racist? That's insane. What kind of idea is that?
By the time we get to polarizing issues like masks, like our disposition towards science, like our perspective on social justice or our institutional injustice, we've brought a lot of stuff with us that we haven't ever even processed or thought about.
Early on, things became heated between protesters and counter-protesters. We're all Americans! State troopers and DPS had to form a line to separate the two groups.
You are in violation of my constitutional rights.
Across the country, tense moments caught on camera as more businesses enforce new rules to stop the spread of the virus.
Yeah, so in the US, we see partisan identities as kind of the strongest social identities. And there's a number of reasons for this. Well, first, we need to compare it to the system in terms of that we have two parties that are very antagonistic and have become more polarized, both on issues but also on values.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that.
You know what? You're
not
stop.
true.
You're going to have
true.
Gentlemen. I hate to raise my voice, but it seems to be. Why should I be different than the two of you?
But what we see here is just that Democrats and Republicans are more and more homogenous within their groups, and so Democrats look more like Democrats and Republicans look more like Republicans, and they like different sports teams, they live in different areas, their friendship networks become more homogenous. And so it becomes a big part of your identity, and so your partisan identity becomes just linked to all of your other identities, and social identity theory really would say that we derive some psychological value from being affiliated with groups, and we want to see our team doing well. And then getting some kind of psychological benefit from your group membership then leads you to kind of dismiss information that goes against your group, but also do some cheerleading in terms of your group, just because we have these effective attachments to these groups that then cloud our judgment.
They were from the United States. People from the United States.
They represent the United States. They represent China.
Okay, sir.
You got your head up your ass.
Sir, I'm sorry.
You got your
God
head
bless
up your
you.
butt.
My president is a racist.
Donald Trump is not a racist.
Did you come down here to create a lie and get one of my people shot?
I'm not going to buy into your narrative.
No, really? You create the narrative, sweetie.
I do not.
Yes, you do. Let's be honest with ourselves out here, sir.
And so once your preferred trusted partisan source has an opinion, then due to a number of psychological processes, you will fall in line with those opinions. either because you sincerely, effectively just interpret that information differently because it comes from a trusted source, or because you want to make a political statement about your side.
The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
I think America is finally coming to grips with the elephant in the room. And once that happens, you are going to find the colliding of various forces. You're going to have it coming from the standpoint of African Americans and Black people, for sure. But then white liberals, white young people themselves who subscribe to certain ideals, certain progressive ideals, they have to ask themselves the question, how can I be a feminist? How can I be for human rights and not be for Black Lives Matter?
And in this moment, it is critical for those of us who are white to look at what we are doing.
I am speaking to white people, my people. We need to do better. And it is your duty to find what you can do to lift some of that load for Black people. They have been carrying the weight of our country for 400 years. It is our turn.
When America was born in the 1780s, African Americans were not granted human status under the Constitution. It meant, therefore, that America has always had to make good on that initial mistake.
Use your privilege. They won't shoot you. They won't kill you. If you're white passing this person like me, stand in front of someone. Don't let them kill your friends. They don't deserve to die. No one deserves to die. There's no reason to be quiet. If you don't donate, if you don't...
There is always going to be a struggle for equality in America, racial equality, gender equality, social equality, because those were not granted birth of the nation. Those with privilege are never going to willingly give up that privilege. And those with privilege are the ones who determine who gets what, where, when, and how in America. So you have to fight the power in order to get it. And so I think the struggle for equality in America is going to continue for some time to come, because in effect, it is those who want equality constantly having to struggle with those who determine that they are not equal.
Like, if you look all through history, these things have been happening. Like, we have been due for some huge revolution to make our society better.
Why do you describe this as a powder keg waiting to explode?
Because the injustices are systemic, they are long-standing, they go back many decades. This is a powder keg because this is the last time that I think the community is going to sit idly by without systematic change.
We saw some responses, for instance, Minneapolis City Council enacting some policy changes, so people were taking note of those protests.
Today, the House of Representatives passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. The bill would prohibit racial profiling, ban no-knock warrants in federal drug cases, classifies chokeholds as a civil rights violation, and establishes a national registry of police misconduct.
Today, Louisville's mayor signed Breonna's law after the Metro Council unanimously banned the use of no-knock warrants, a controversial practice that gives police authority to enter a home without announcing themselves.
We all got to be a team here. We all have to wear a mask and just fight this thing.
But we need to act now. We need to act quickly to protect our healthcare workers so that we can save as many lives as possible.
I guess I don't understand why people don't want to protect each other and protect themselves, especially in the face of everything that's happening. And I just feel like, you got to help us out.
Donna Haraway has quoted this and she's expanded on it, and I can't remember the original source at the moment, but it matters what thoughts we use to think other thoughts.
So I do think that empathy plays a large role, because we know that this affects different people differently, and so it becomes not just political, but I think group empathy plays a large role. So the more that you can put yourself in shoes of other people and understanding how you could maybe help them, it becomes a large part, I think, of the discourse.